Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dream 100 Show. I wanted to talk today about the impact that small businesses, like everyone that's listening to this podcast, are making on the local economies, but also start to see this conversation around small business failure. So over the last 60 days, I've gotten really clear on the type of content that I want to continue to bring to the table. And if I've looked at what content would get me to the place where I'm jumping out of bed, eagerly wanting to present, eagerly wanting to teach, it's about building a business that will outlast you. Now, the asterisk to that is that if your end game is different, without having an end game of just closing down shop, if your end game is, hey, I want to grow it and sell it, that's a little bit of a different story. You're getting some of your hard-earned labor back in the form of something, a nice buyout agreement, whatever that end game ends up being. Or you want one of those businesses, again, that can be handed down to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. And I've looked at this extensively over the last couple of years. And I've actually studied and I've interviewed hundreds of business owners that have had to close their doors. And these conversations were some of the toughest conversations I've ever had. Now, I thought in walking into this, the conversations would have been a little bit more cut and dry. And here's what I mean by that. Like, I thought that the big reason that people end up closing their doors is that they run out of capital. Now, ultimately, that usually is the nail that closes the coffin, but it's all of those circumstances, all the things that you did or didn't do that then lead up to that. And that, to me, is really where the rubber meets the road. So if I take a couple of steps back and I kind of talk through this quest and why is this important to you and what am I going to teach you, I'm going to give you the exact framework over the next few months, in between adding in some other interviews of people that are living this out, but the exact framework to make sure that you have a business that will outlast you and or a business that can be sold. That's my objective. And I'm going to give you everything that I know, literally everything, step by step by step. I'm going to give you the mindset shifts you're going to have to make. I'm going to teach you all of it. And the interesting piece that you're going to learn, spoiler alert, is having a marketing first methodology, a marketing first framework, a marketing first modus operandum, essentially where you are focusing most of your efforts on marketing as you're growing your business, as you're starting your business, and never taking your foot off the gas. That one thing alone has been my secret sauce. And as I went through these interviews, which I will circle back to in just a minute, their lack of marketing is what then led to the cash issues. Everything starts with marketing. Everything. All these restaurants that are closing their doors. I mean, I would never start a restaurant. No offense to anyone that owns a restaurant. 50% of restaurants fail in year one. Those are some really scary stats. And that metric isn't changing. It's not improving. If you're like, Michael, that's not totally accurate. Well, it is, and that has never gotten better. And I believe the metric is either 90 or 95% are closed within 5 years. But if I look at all of these new restaurants, the only way that I tend to find out about them are by driving past them. And if you know that humans are creatures of habit, and you're typically only going in certain places, and you often stay within your city, your town, your village, you might not venture off that often unless you have a reason to. How are you ever going to find out about this new restaurant, this new venue, if they're not pumping marketing dollars, marketing activities, especially as they're just starting up? The margins are very, very thin in that industry. And I interviewed a lot of restaurants that went under, and we very rapidly learned that the number one reason that they ended up closing their doors, not just restaurants, but all of these hundreds of businesses, was due to a lack of marketing. Every one of these businesses had one of two things in common. Number one, they invested very, very little in marketing. So think, for example, a restaurant. The average restaurant, I'm going to make up a number, but let's say it's $250,000 to get it off the ground. So marketing wise, a lot of these restaurants, they were investing maybe $5,000, or their big sign out front, for example, was their thought of marketing. So they put all their money to buy everything, get the menus, all the furnishings. Nobody knows about it. Has not been if you build it, and they will come in many, many, many years. So not enough marketing. And the second one is, if they were doing marketing, they were doing the wrong marketing or ineffective marketing. They weren't marketing in the moment. They weren't marketing to where their customers were, their prospects. They were just kind of slapping some stuff up. That would be the equivalent of doing a ton of newspaper advertising when you're trying to reach the younger generation to learn about your trampoline park, for example. The younger generation isn't reading a printed newspaper. They're also not reading a digital newspaper. So if you're out putting money in TikTok, for example, they're most likely not going to hear about you. So those two things then led to their demise. And again, there was a ripple effect. Like, there were often other things, but those were the two that were in common amongst all of these. So if you know that particular aspect being the most important, over the next couple of months, as we talk through, what does it mean to have a marketing first approach? And how do you need to figure that out? The Dream 100 framework that I've been teaching you, giving you all of my secret sauces, is the best framework to use. The best framework. I wish that I knew about this 20 years ago. All of my new businesses that I'm starting, and in full disclosure, I'm launching more marketing agencies. I'm launching a business again in the epoxy space. We're taking a marketing first approach, but our number one marketing tactic is executing the Dream 100 framework. So we're going out there and looking for, how do we get these strategic partners? How do we get them in our zone? How do we get them as referral partners? The epoxy business, for example, right now we have a list of, I think, 17 local builders and developers. We're going to do the exact same things that I'm teaching you day in and day out. Building our authority, getting them on a podcast, sending custom gifts, interacting with them on social media, relentless follow-up, adding value to their lives. We're literally leading with this strategy as everything else, before everything else. And we're combining it with other things: SEO, new website, paid traffic, TikTok, Facebook ads, videos, all these other strategies. But the number one strategy that we are investing in is the Dream 100. If I've looked at any business that has this particular strategy, the Dream 100 framework rolling, they are making money hand over fist, and they become a better acquisition target. They're more financially stable. I can tell you businesses after businesses that had these partners lined up that were acquired for an ungodly amount of money. Look at businesses like, there's a company called ServPro. They serve the restoration market. So their strategic partners, they've lined up and synced up with insurance agencies. And they have their secret sauce to getting in with them. All their business, not all, but most of their business that comes to their local franchisees is coming from somebody that walks into, like, State Farm. I need water damage help. Great, we have 2 recommendations for you. Our number 1 recommendation is a company called ServPro. Like, those relationships are literally worth their weight in gold. Everything continues to stem back to the Dream 100 and a marketing first approach. Now, as we progress over the next couple of months, we're going to talk about accounting and operations and team and strategy and vision and all of that great stuff. But we're going to continue to laser in on the marketing approach, the marketing activities, the marketing budgets, monitoring, all that great stuff. Now, I wanted to not necessarily just come out on a hard ending, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, as we close this episode up, around small businesses and what do they actually do for the local economy and even the national economy. So there's a lot of different definitions for small business owner. The SBA calls it businesses with 500 and fewer employees. 500 is a pretty big business in my opinion, but by definition, 500 or fewer. And of that, that makes up like 99.7% of businesses in the US. Everyone falls in that particular category. For me, I mean, smaller businesses they're probably under the $20 million mark. It could be under 5 million or 10 million. Everyone has different parameters that they consider small. So take that definition with a grain of salt. But when you look at how much they're contributing to the local economies, it is the lion's share. That restaurant that opened up, they're hiring local businesses, local contractors, local team members to come in and work in their restaurant. Those team members are serving local businesses, local customers that are coming in. Their money that they get paid from the restaurant often then stays local. Pay your mortgage and your credit card bills, and you pay your car payments, but then a lot of your fringe spending and you going to other restaurants and fun activities. We were just at the fair, like all those kind of fun things. That money stays local. So when a small business closes their doors, there's a ripple effect that cascades. So take a restaurant that I just saw one close locally on Friday. Apparently we were their last customer. So oddly enough, I and no one else had any idea. Maybe the staff did. We apparently were their last customer. Now they're saying that they retired, but with the amount of people that I've seen in that restaurant, I think it was a combination of everything. But look at the ripple effect now. So the 20 or 25 people that work there now are out of jobs. Luckily, there's a fair amount of jobs locally they can probably go and get, but some of those people had worked there for 15, 20 years. They're out of jobs. All the produce, all the food that you were buying locally, now those vendors just lost an account. Some of these restaurants are massive accounts. So now they have to cut back and they have to scale back. The people that own the restaurant, they were paying lots of taxes to the town where this business was located. Now the town loses revenue that then provides other services. Like there's this cascading effect. Now, yes, the customers, I'm sure there were some regulars that every Friday at 5 o'clock, they went and got dinner, for example, and that's no good. That's obviously another negative impact. But look at the financial impact that's caused. Look at the emotional impact on the staff, on the owners. It is a ripple effect that does massive damage. Small business owners are driving the majority of the economy and the majority of all new job creation. So making sure that you have your frameworks dialed in, that you know day by day by day where you need to be putting your time and money is going to give you the best shot to have a business that stands the test of time or a business that gets acquired for a nice multiple. So my final word for you today, my final thought, my final action is for you to do some self-reflection. And to do some self-reflection in a few areas. First off, are you taking a marketing-first approach at your business? Yes or no? Are you focusing more on your operations, on your team, on culture? All great things. But where is your time and energy going? Your personal time and energy. How much of it is going towards marketing, strategy, budgets, etc.? The second thing I want you to look at is as you're driving around, start to look at those businesses that have gone under. Maybe you had a business that has failed. I've had several that have failed. Start to reflect on what else happens after that business goes under. So for me, I'm going to run 100 times faster away from pain than I am going to go to pleasure. I can paint the picture and show you all the amazing things on the other side. And there are a lot of amazing things when you have this framework nailed down. But you need to really get clear on all the potential impacts, all the things that could go awry in your personal life, your business life, your team's life, if you don't make this happen. And when you get that fire in your belly, that is when you start to move the needle a heck of a lot faster. You start to change your frame. You start to change your thinking, your mindset from, yeah, things are fine to, great, I need to be a better leader. I need to invest more in here. I need to make sure that I'm looking at these numbers on a regular basis, and I need to change my mindset that once a quarter makes sense. I should be looking at my numbers once a week. So we're going to go on a journey, and I'm going to give you everything that I've got. And in tandem, I'm going to keep teaching you how I'm deploying the Dream 100 framework at the Dream 100 business and my agencies. So delivering everything to you on a silver platter in full transparency. Everything that I know will be yours for the taking and yours for the implementation. Catch me next week. As always, like, share, comment. Always happy to hear from you. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. See you next week.